6 months after the humans left, the galaxy was falling apart. Counselor Vexthul stood before the massive display screen in the Council's strategic center, watching red warning indicators spread across the galactic map like a plague. Each red dot represented a crisis that would have been unthinkable during the human-era pirate raids: resource shortages, technological failures, and diplomatic breakdowns that were cascading into system-wide collapses. "The vegan colonies have declared independence," reported Ambassador Telvar, his voice hollow with exhaustion. "They claim the Council can no longer provide adequate protection from raiders." It was the 15th secession in 3 months. Species that had been loyal Council members for centuries were abandoning the institution as its inability to respond to crises became apparent. Without human peacekeeping fleets, military intervention, and rapid response capabilities, the Council had reverted to its default state: endless deliberation, while problems festered into catastrophes. "The medical supply shortage has reached critical levels," announced Dr. Kilthis, his crystalline features dim with despair. "We've managed to synthesize basic equivalents for only 20% of human pharmaceutical developments. Mortality rates are climbing across 43 member worlds." Ambassador Mordine's tentacles writhed in frustration as he reviewed reports from the Outer Rim. Pirate activity has increased by 3,000%. Trade routes that were secure for 2 centuries are now impassable. The economic damage is approaching total collapse. But the most devastating report came from Dr. Raylan. "The agricultural crisis is beyond containment. Without human farming techniques and equipment, food production has collapsed on dozens of worlds. We're looking at famine conditions affecting over 200 million beings." The irony was bitter and undeniable. The species that the Council had dismissed as too young, too rash, and too violent had been the only thing standing between galactic civilization and chaos. Their departure had revealed just how dependent everyone had become on human innovation, human action, and human willingness to take risks for the greater good. "We have to contact them," said Counselor Yilseth. Her serpentine form coiled so tightly around her platform that the metal was beginning to creak. "Offer them whatever they want. Full voting rights, veto powers, anything." "They won't answer," Ambassador Telvar replied quietly. "We've sent over 400 communications in the past 6 months. They've ignored every one." The humans hadn't just withdrawn, they had moved on. Intelligence reports suggested that they were establishing their own interstellar alliance with species that had never joined the Council: young, dynamic civilizations that valued action over procedure. The new alliance was growing rapidly, offering everything the Council claimed to provide, but with the efficiency and responsiveness that the humans had always advocated. "The Altarians have requested permission to establish diplomatic contact with the Human Federation," reported Ambassador Pex Ryle, his cybernetic implants whirring with stress-induced processing overload. "They're the 7th member species to make such a request this month." This was the Council's greatest fear realized. Their own members were seeking alternatives to Council authority. The humans had proved that effective galactic governance was possible without the cumbersome bureaucracy that had paralyzed interstellar civilization for centuries. "We cannot allow direct negotiations," Ambassador Mordine declared, though his tentacles betrayed his uncertainty. "It would undermine Council authority." "What authority?" interrupted General Thexmore, the military commander whose peacekeeping forces had been decimated by the absence of human support. "We can't protect trade routes. We can't stop pirate raids. We can't prevent famines. We can't resolve conflicts. What exactly is our authority worth?" The question silenced the chamber. Every delegate knew the answer, though none wanted to voice it. The Council's authority was worth nothing without the capability to act, and that capability had walked out the door with the human delegation. "The Proxima incident last week proves the point," continued General Thexmore. "Pirates attacked a medical convoy carrying supplies to plague victims. By the time we finished debating response options, the convoy was destroyed, and 12,000 refugees died from preventable disease. The contrast was stark and painful. During the human era, such an attack would have triggered immediate military response. Human ships would have been dispatched within hours, the pirates would have been neutralized, and the medical supplies would have reached their destination. Now, the Council's response time was measured in weeks rather than hours. and by the time they acted, the emergencies had usually spiraled into tragedies. Intelligence reports indicate that the Human Alliance prevented 17 similar attacks this month, added Ambassador Telvar. Their rapid response protocols have saved an estimated 50,000 lives. The numbers were devastating. In 6 months of human absence, more beings had died from preventable causes than in the previous 50 years combined. The species that the Council had accused of being too violent to provide proper leadership had actually been the most effective force for peace and security in galactic history. "We made a mistake," admitted Councillor Vex Thull, the words carrying the weight of civilizational collapse. "We confused caution with wisdom, procedure with progress. We thought their impatience was a weakness. It was their strength," said Dr. Raylan. "While we debated, they acted. While we planned, they saved lives. While we worried about precedent, they created results." The Chamber's communication system activated with an urgent priority signal. All delegates turned toward the main display as an image appeared. Ambassador Sarah Chen, speaking from what appeared to be a sleek, modern council chamber filled with representatives from species both familiar and unknown. "Greetings to the Galactic Council," Sarah said, her voice carrying the same calm authority that had once challenged council procedures. "This message is being transmitted to inform you of the establishment of the Galactic Action Alliance, a cooperative organization dedicated to rapid response, humanitarian aid, conflict resolution, and mutual defense." The chamber fell silent as delegates absorbed the implications. The humans hadn't just left, they had created a replacement organization that embodied everything the Council had failed to become. "Membership in the Alliance is open to all species committed to the principles of decisive action in service of galactic peace," Sarah continued. "Unlike previous interstellar organizations, the Alliance operates under streamlined decision-making protocols designed to prioritize results over process." Ambassador Mordine's tentacles writhed in fury. "They're poaching our members," but the fear in his voice betrayed the truth. The Alliance wasn't poaching members, it was offering them something the Council couldn't: effective governance. The Alliance has successfully resolved 47 conflicts, prevented 12 famines, stopped over 200 pirate attacks, and provided emergency medical aid to 36 worlds, Sarah continued. "Our rapid response capabilities have saved an estimated 250,000 lives in the past 6 months. The numbers hit the chamber like physical blows. While the Council had debated, the Human Alliance had acted. While the Council had worried about proper procedures, the Alliance had saved more lives than the Council had managed in decades. We extend an invitation to all beings committed to building a better galaxy," Sarah concluded. "One where action serves life, where capability serves need, and where the future matters more than precedent." The transmission ended, leaving the chamber in stunned silence. Several delegates were already checking their personal communicators, undoubtedly receiving instructions from their governments about Alliance membership. "We have to respond," said Councillor Vex Thull desperately. "Reform our procedures, streamline our decision-making, prove that we can change." "It's too late," Ambassador Telvar said quietly. "They've already built what we should have become. Why would anyone choose our bureaucracy over their efficiency?" The truth was inescapable. The Council had lost not just a member species, but its relevance. The humans had shown the galaxy a better way, and species were abandoning the old system in favor of the new one. "The Meridian Alliance is withdrawing from the Council," announced Ambassador Pex Ryle, reading from an urgent communication. "Effective immediately. They're joining the Action Alliance." It was the beginning of the end. Over the following hours, withdrawal notices flooded in from across the galaxy. Species that had been Council members for centuries were abandoning the institution for the promise of effective governance. "Emergency protocols," declared Councillor Vex Thull, but his voice lacked conviction. "We need to implement emergency reforms. We need to face reality," interrupted Ambassador Telvar. "We had 2 centuries to listen to human insights about effective governance. We chose to dismiss them as inexperienced. Now they've created the institution we should have been." The chamber began to empty as delegates received recall orders from their governments. The exodus wasn't gradual, it was immediate and comprehensive. Species were cutting ties with the Council as quickly as they could establish relationships with the Alliance. Counselor Vex Thul remained at his post, watching the red indicators on the galactic display. Each one represented a crisis that the Council was no longer capable of addressing. The humans had taken their energy, their innovation, their willingness to act, and their commitment to results. Without them, the Council was exactly what it had always been, underneath a debating society that confused discussion with action. In the end, the chamber fell silent, not because the humans left, but because they had been right all along. The galaxy needed leaders who would act when action was required, who would risk criticism to save lives, who would choose results over process. The humans had offered to be those leaders within the Council framework, and they had been rejected. Now they were leading anyway, and the galaxy was following them. The Council's greatest mistake hadn't been losing the humans, it had been failing to recognize their true value until it was too late to matter. As the last delegates filed out, and the chamber lights dimmed, the silence was complete. The Galactic Council had ended not with debate or ceremony, but with the simple recognition that some institutions become irrelevant when better alternatives exist. The humans had tried to reform the system from within. When that failed, they had simply built a better system outside it. The choice facing the remaining species was clear: cling to failed traditions or embrace effective solutions. Most chose effectiveness. The chamber fell silent because there was nothing left to say.